Hey guys, it's Elise and welcome back to My Cupcake Addiction, where today I'm going to be showing you how to make this really cool and pretty simple no-bake Halloween graveyard tart. Before we get started, I wanted to let you know if any of you guys are going to StreamCon in New York City at the end of the month, I'm going to be there. If you're not going and you want to meet me, you can grab a ticket using the link down below. I'm also going to be doing a meet and greet, so if you want to come up, say hey, grab a photo and talk baking with me, I would absolutely love to see you guys there. I'm going to leave all the details down below, and if you buy your meet and greet tickets using my little link that I've provided down below, I'll also have a pretty cool little gift pack for anyone that comes along to say hey. Can't wait to be at my first StreamCon. I hope to see some of you guys there. Let's get started with our no-bake Halloween graveyard tart. The things that you need, I've got some milk chocolate and also some white chocolate. I've got some crushed cookies. Now I've got some separate for my base and then some separate for my decorations and garnish. And I've also got a little bit of melted butter, some condensed milk, a little bit of black food coloring, and I've also got a little bit of whipping cream, which is cream with about a 35% milk fat. I'm going to leave all of your quantities and measurements on the mycupcakeaddiction.com website, so you can check that out if you want to print the recipe off. I'm going to use a couple of just little skeleton dangly toys for this. I use toys because I couldn't find any fun skeleton chocolate molds, but if you can find candy skeletons, chocolate skeletons, or little skeleton type bones, they just give us a little bit more interest factor to the grave tart. You're also going to need a tart pan. I'm using a long lined fluted tart pan with the removable base because that's going to give us the really kind of long gravy type shape. Let's get started. First of all, we're going to make our grave headstone, or our little tombstone. I tossed up a few different ways to make this, and I was thinking maybe baking a cookie or using something like a block of chocolate, but I settled on fudge because it's going to allow me to make it really easily, but then also to give it kind of that marbled grey effect. So I'm going to take sweetened condensed milk, and I'm just going to pour it over straight white chocolate. Then I'm going to pop it in the microwave for 30-second intervals. You want to stir it in between until it's really nicely melted. So once you've stirred that all the way through, it should be really kind of nice and thick and creamy and gooey. Now we're going to add just a little bit of black food coloring. I'm just going to take a toothpick and kind of put in like a blob right in the middle. And you want to stir this through, but not all the way through. We kind of want to make sure it's got that lovely marbled effect. Now, before I finish stirring that through, I've lined, this is just like a little Tupperware bowl, and I've used this one because it's got a nice round edge. So if you don't have a bowl exactly like this, you could go with a small cake tin and just line the base with a little bit of parchment paper or baking paper. So I'm going to take my fudge now, one last stir through and pour it in. And then as it's in that pan, I'm kind of going to give it one little last stir around so that my marbling's relatively even. I'm going to give that quite a few taps on the bench because I want it to be really, really nice and flat. So feel free to belt it around a little bit until it's nice and level on top. Delicious tombstone fudge. Pop that off into the fridge, and this is definitely something that you can pre-make so that it's ready to go when you want to put your tart together. Now for our base. Pour your butter over top of your chocolate cookies. I used Oreos, but you can use whatever chocolate cookies you like. Give that a good stir through, and you're looking for the consistency of almost like a wet sand. So you should be able to squeeze it together in the palm of your hand, and it should form a little ball that doesn't fall apart. Now all you want to do is just take your base, pour them into the tart base, and then we're just going to press them down. This looks like a lot of cookie crumbs, but once we press them all down and get them up against the edges, it's going to be the perfect amount for our long tart base. Now the trick to getting a really nice even edge on your tart is you want to push that cookie base so you can see it's coming sort of over the top of the fluted edge. So while you're pressing, you can use something like, I'm just going to use the bottom of a cup just to flatten it down so it's nice and even, which also kind of helps push it up those sides a little bit. And once you're happy that it's nice and flat, take a knife and you just want to trim around those outside edges. Try and let the cookie fall back into the pan, and then we can smooth it off again because we don't want to waste any cookie. Perfect. Now with our fudge in the fridge and our cookie base done, we're going to make a very, very simple chocolate ganache. So I've got my cream over here, and we're just going to pour that over top of our milk chocolate. That goes off into the microwave for 30-second intervals, stirring in between until it's completely melted like a smooth chocolate river. This is going to be quite a thick ganache, so it's not going to be at all runny once it sets, and it's going to be able to be sliced really, really easily. If you wanted to get inventive and add a little bit of peppermint essence or a little bit of orange essence, you could go with like a choc orange, chocolate peppermint, choose your flavor. So now you want to take your fudge, and we're going to take it out of its little container. So I'm going to run a knife just around the outside edge of the bowl so that I can loosen it off a little bit because I've only got that baking paper on the underside, not around those outside edges. And then we should just be able to tip it out. Perfect. There's your little piece of tombstone. So you can peel off your bit of parchment paper or baking paper. Check out that gorgeous marbled effect. on both sides, it looks absolutely perfect. And because we've set it in the bowl, we've got that really nice rounded edge. So I'm going to grab a really sharp knife and just cut off the two sides. When you're deciding which portion to cut, make sure that you take into consideration this is supposed to be a headstone. So I've got a couple of nice little grooves where that parchment paper's kind of wrinkled up. They're perfect to make it start looking a little bit cracked and creepy. I'm going to make that the top, and then I'm going to cut either side off using my sharp knife. And then just a flat bottom on it so that I can rest it nicely in my tart pan. One fudge tombstone. How easy was that to make? I'm going to etch some designs into it just using a skewer, or you could use something like a fork or a knife, but I'm just going to etch in a little RIP and maybe a couple more little cracks. So I've kept out a little bit of compound milk chocolate, which is chocolate that doesn't contain the ingredient cocoa butter. If you can't find that at your local store, you could also use white chocolate or something like a brown candy melt. I've got that melted with no cream or anything because that's going to set back to firm again, and I'm going to use it to glue my tombstone to the base of my tart. On goes my tombstone. I'm just going to support it there until that chocolate sets just a little bit. And then I'm just going to flood it with that ganache. I'm just going to pour that all the way in, being careful not to knock over my tombstone. And a little bit in behind the tombstone. And a little tiny bit down each of the sides. Beautiful. Now I'm going to grab some of my cookie crumbs here, and I don't want to cookie crumb the entire thing just at the moment. I'm going to cookie crumb the outside edges because while that ganache is wet is the best time to stick the cookie crumbs to it. I feel like this would also be really fun if you buried some little candy bones underneath. I didn't want to add too many extra steps, but feel free to get creative with some worms, some bones, little eyeballs, anything gruesome you can think to add in there. I've still got the center part with no cookie crumbs on. We are almost done, but I'm going to put that into the fridge for 15 minutes and let that ganache set nicely. And then we're going to add the finishing touches. So my ganache is now not set. It's like semi-set, so it's still kind of soft, but it's firm enough that I can scoop it out. I'm going to use a spoon and I'm just going to scoop down so I've got a little bit of an indent in my tart. Perfect. Now, so that I'm not laying my skeleton, because it's not edible, directly onto my ganache, I'm going to give it a bit of a cookie coating first and sort of press into that little hole a little bit, but that just gives it the indentation so that our skeleton's kind of immersed into his grave properly. Now with the skeleton that I chose, because mine's not edible, I chose one full skeleton rather than pieces of skeleton, because the last thing that I want to have happen is to leave a piece, a bone, a leg, an arm, a skull or something in there that people might choke on. And then just a tiny little sort of a sprinkle of dirt over the top, because he can't be completely exposed if he's in our graveyard. Like I said, feel free to use your imagination here. You can get candy skeletons, you can get bones, you can get grubs. There is absolutely no shortage of amazing Halloween candy out this time of year. I hope you guys have liked my non-traditional take on a graveyard for Halloween. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, make sure you do for tons more Halloween ideas and 2 new videos every week. And as always, guys, thanks very much for watching.